At some point today, a song got stuck in your head. You didn't choose it. You weren't thinking about music, and then suddenly it was just there, playing on a loop, and you couldn't stop it. You probably couldn't even remember where you'd last heard it. It just arrived. That's a strange thing if you think about it. Music gets into your head without your permission and runs there on its own. A song comes on and your foot starts moving before you've registered what's playing. Someone taps a rhythm on a table and something in you immediately starts tracking it. You didn't decide to, it just happened. Music operates below the level of decision. The question nobody has fully answered yet is why. In 1995, a cave in Slovenia. An archaeologist pulls a piece of bare femur out of the dirt. It has 4 holes in it. Deliberately carved, evenly spaced, it's at least 60,000 years old. It's a flute. Researchers reconstructed it. It plays a pentatonic scale, the same scale that shows up in folk music on every continent, independently, with no contact between cultures. A few years later, in a cave in Germany, another bone flute, vulture bone, 42,000 years old. Someone made it, played it, and left it in a cave. It sat there for 42,000 years until someone dug it up. That's the oldest confirmed musical instrument on Earth, but an instrument is just the part that survived. The singing didn't survive. The drumming didn't survive. Whatever humans were doing before they figured out they could put holes in a bone, that left no trace. So 60,000 years isn't when music started. It's just the first time we can prove it existed. The real beginning could be anywhere. So why did it start at all? In 2012, a researcher at Oxford named Robin Dunbar ran an experiment. He split strangers into groups. Some sang together. Some listened to music passively. Some did a non-musical group activity. Then he measured their pain thresholds. The singers came out significantly higher than everyone else, which means their brains were producing more endorphins. Not the listeners, the singers with strangers, in under an hour. Dunbar had been studying social bonding for years. You can groom one person at a time. You can have a conversation with maybe 4 or 5 people before it falls apart. But you can sing with 50 people at once and something happens in all of them simultaneously. Their endorphin levels rise. Something in their bodies shifts toward trust. Not entertainment, a way to do in 10 minutes what would otherwise take days of individual contact, but that explains a choir. It doesn't explain why music gets into your head uninvited and runs there on its own. Darwin had a different theory. He noticed that in almost every species that produces complex vocalizations, birds, whales, gibbons, the sounds function as display. A male nightingale doesn't sing because it enjoys singing. It sings because the quality of its song signals the quality of its genes. Darwin thought human music worked the same way, that it evolved as a fitness display, a way of saying without words that you were strong enough, coordinated enough, creative enough to make something beautiful. And why performing music in front of other people produces the same physiological stress response as a mating display in animals. Elevated heart rate, heightened alertness, the acute awareness of being watched and evaluated. But that explains performance. It doesn't explain lying alone in the dark with headphones in, playing the same song on repeat, not performing for anyone. In the 1970s, an ethnomusicologist named John Blacking spent years living with the Venda people in South Africa, studying how music functioned in their daily life. He came back with something that took a while to make sense of. The Venda had no word for music. Not because they didn't have music, they had an enormous amount of it, but because they had no concept of music as a separate thing. It wasn't an activity you went and did. It ran through farming, through healing, through grief, through celebration. You couldn't extract it and hold it up and call it music any more than you could extract breathing and give it a name. It was just part of being alive. What Blacking observed, and what researchers since have measured more precisely, is that music regulates internal states. It raises and drops cortisol. It controls the rate at which emotions move through the body. Sad music doesn't make you sadder. It processes the sadness, moves it along, and leaves you more regulated than before. The solo music, the private music, the music you use to get through something, that's not a modern luxury. That might be the oldest function of all. Emotional regulation, a way of managing your own interior without anyone else's help. But none of these theories, not bonding, not display, not regulation, explains the most basic thing. Why does music operate below the level of decision? Why does it get in before you've chosen to let it? Your brain processes music and language in overlapping regions, not next to each other, overlapping. And human infants respond to rhythm and pitch before they can speak a single word, before they understand language, before they have any real model of the world. They can follow a beat. They can tell when a melody resolves. Something in them already knows. Some researchers think music didn't grow out of language, that somewhere very far back, our ancestors had one system, something that was both music and proto-language simultaneously, a single capacity. And at some point, it split. Language went one direction. Music went another, which would mean that music doesn't feel like a choice because it predates the machinery of choice. It runs in something older than the part of your brain that decides things. Chimpanzees can't do this. Play them a rhythm and they won't follow it. You put a drum beat on and they don't sync to it. They look at the source of the sound, they move around, but they don't lock in. You can't help locking in. That gap between us and our closest relatives is where music lives, and we have no idea how long it's been there. Polly Wiesner spent years recording conversations among the Jew/Huansi Bushmen of the Kalahari Desert, one of the last groups on Earth still living something close to the original human lifestyle. During the day, 80% of conversation was practical. Logistics, complaints, who's hunting where. At night, it changed completely. At night, 81% of conversation was stories, jokes, myths, songs. Understand what night actually was. A campfire throws light roughly 30 feet in diameter. Inside that circle, you can see faces, hands, movement. Outside it, complete darkness. Not the darkness of a bedroom with the curtains drawn, actual darkness, the kind where you cannot see your own hand in front of your face. And in that darkness, things moved. Leopards, hyenas, predators whose eyes worked fine in conditions where yours were useless. The fire was the only reason you were alive at night at all. And inside that circle of firelight, humans sang. Fire gave humans something no other primate had. 2, 3, 4 extra hours every night pulled back from the darkness. And they filled those hours with exactly this. Stories and songs in a circle of light with the people they depended on to survive. Bonding 50 people at once, displaying fitness to potential partners, regulating the fear that came with sitting in a small circle of light with darkness and predators pressing in on every side. All the theories running simultaneously every night for hundreds of thousands of years, compounding slowly into the thing that you are now. Which brings you back to the bone flute in the cave in Slovenia. 60,000 years old, 4 holes, bare femur. Someone sat down and spent hours carving that. They had other things to do. There were more urgent demands on their time, and they made a flute anyway because whatever music was doing for them, it was worth it. It was worth the hours. It was worth the noise. What came before it, we don't know. The singing didn't survive. The drumming didn't survive. Everything before the bone is silence. And in that silence is the answer to why music operates the way it does. Below decision, below language, in something so old it predates everything else we know about ourselves. We don't fully know why music does what it does. We have 4 good theories and a 60,000-year-old flute and a gap before that we can't see into. What we know is that every human culture ever found had music. That infants respond to it before they can speak, that it bonds and displays and regulates and does all 3 at once. That song that got stuck in your head this morning, you didn't choose it and you couldn't stop it because music doesn't run through the part of your brain that makes choices. It runs through something older, something that was there before language, before words, before you had any way to decide what you wanted to think about. We don't fully know what that something is. We just know it's been there for a very long time and we know it works.